The Fall Wink, Stars, Planets, and Daylight Saving Time. Hi there, glad you're here with us to see what's up in the night sky, using nothing more than some knowledge for your mind and your own naked eyes. And what's up in the night sky during this first week of November in the Northern Hemisphere is where we're going to put our focus on first, because there are some very interesting things to see there. So far over the summer and fall months, we've been focusing on how to identify the star constellations of the Northern Hemisphere sky. And in this piece, it's going to be the first time that we've looked at any planets. So in addition to looking at the stars in this one, we're going to be looking first at the planets too. 3 of them actually, in Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn, and how this connects to daylight saving time, or to what we've given the nickname to, the Fall Wink. So let's jump back into the celestial sea and see what there is to see this first week of November there. Starting with the planets, because if you're watching this during the first week of November in the year that we commonly call 2021, you will get quite a treat to see Jupiter, Saturn, and Venus all together in the night sky. Again, we're going to face due south, found by moving your body until your left side is nearest where the sun rises in the morning where you live, and your right side is nearest where the sun sets in the evening. This special place in the sky, when you look up above the Earth's horizon, we've nicknamed the real oracle or the real all-seeing eye. It's the place in the sky where most of the celestial action occurs. It's a narrow band in the sky called the arc of the ecliptic or the zodiacal belt, because here you're going to find all the known star constellations of the zodiac travel along, but also the sun, the moon, and all the known planets do too. The 3 planets that we'll see traveling along the arc of the ecliptic during the first week of November of the year 2021, the first hour after sunset, are Jupiter, Saturn, and Venus. So we're going to start with a look at them beginning on October 31st, or Halloween. Very appropriate this year, as we'll see, because Jupiter, Saturn, and Venus, they have both some tricks and treats to show us, and you're going to see what I mean. We're going to start right here. So if you've been following along with us learning the star constellations by season, you'll notice now that here at the end of October, going into the first week of November, the constellations we've been tracking have drifted more and more westward along the arc of the ecliptic throughout the summer and now deep into the fall months, as you can see, for example, Ophiuchus and Sagittarius there. And we find Capricorn, the sea goat, as we looked at starting the beginning of October, now taking center stage at the cross of the north-south meridian line and the arc of the ecliptic during the evening hour of twilight. Now, Capricorn here will be host to 2 of the planets we're looking for, Jupiter and Saturn. The star constellations maintain the same cyclical pattern in the night sky year after year. It's the reason why you hear them described as the fixed stars. This is why Constellations by Campfire, the series of books that we offer, is a resource to use no matter what year it is, because this book series focuses only on the star constellations, and those, remember, are the fixed stars. So year after year, though they're always on the move throughout the night, they move all together, and their cycle stays fixed. Or in other words, no matter what year, the cycle stays the same. Now, all of the 7 luminaries that are visible with the naked eye from here on the ground, they're all a different story. Seven different stories, actually, and they're all separate from each other. And they're also different from the cycle of the fixed stars. This is the reason that you'll hear the planets called wandering stars, because other than the sun, those other 6 visible luminaries, that will be the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, they're going to be found in different locations in relation to the background of fixed stars year to year when you're looking up for them in the night sky. So, in other words, your location here on the ground and the cycles of those 6 visible luminaries, depending on whether they're going to be visible or not, are going to depend on those 2 factors. So when to see them and where you're located and where the cycle of those 6 luminaries are depends on what you can see in the night sky. Now, with Jupiter and Saturn, the first planets, we can see their pattern or their cycles. They're a little easier to start with, at least to give us a start on learning about these wandering stars for our purposes starting out in this video. So look for Jupiter right at center stage near the cross of the north-south meridian line and the arc of the ecliptic. You're going to find Jupiter easily against the background of the constellation of Capricorn because, as we learned, right, Capricorn is a small, dim constellation, and Jupiter's size and brightness in comparison to that background will make Jupiter easily stand out. Jupiter has an approximate 12-year cycle. That means that Jupiter spends approximately 1 year at a time in each of the 12 constellations of the zodiac, and then it repeats this pattern again and again. Saturn will be found more to the west of Jupiter's location during this first week of November, or more toward your right when looking up at it. And Saturn will appear smaller than Jupiter, but it's easy to find because even though it's not as bright as Jupiter, Saturn is still brighter than any other stars around it. Saturn's cycle is approximately 30 years, and it has the longest cycle of the visible luminaries. Even though Saturn is visible with the naked eye, you're not going to be able to see Saturn's famous rings without the aid of a telescope or a good long zoom on a good camera. But still, this is a heavenly treat this Halloween to get a look at Jupiter and Saturn center stage at twilight during the first week of November. And that leaves us with our third wandering star of focus. Starting on Halloween and into the first week of November, you're going to find another beautiful treat in the night sky, but with a trickier 8-year cycle in Venus. We'll be looking much more in future pieces about Venus's tricky 8-year cycle, where sometimes of the year, in her tricky travels, she plays the role of the morning star, as she's called, where she rises over the eastern horizon in the morning, where she's up even before the sun rises. And here we find Venus this year along her tricky travels, playing the role of the evening star, as she's called, because you find her just above the western horizon, still shining huge and bright in the constellation of Sagittarius the Centaur after the sun has set. So you'll want to get a look at Venus over the western horizon this week because of the treat that it is. You won't find Venus in her evening star role this time of the year again for 3 more years, in the year we call 2024 when we get there, because of her tricky cycle. But like I said, we're going to look at Venus's tricky travels even more into the future. So now that we've got eyes on the 3 planets of Jupiter, Saturn, and Venus in the night sky this first week of November, this year at least, let's end this piece by showing you a sky phenomenon in the stars you can see every year during this time of the year. If, that is, you live in an area on the ground that participates in daylight saving time. And this year, in the year we commonly call 2021, because Jupiter, Saturn, and Venus are big and bright in the night sky this same week, they're going to make this daylight saving time phenomenon even easier to see, and also very easy to see why we've nicknamed this the fall wink. So we're going to roll forward in time now from the Halloween night sky at evening twilight to just 4 days later. So we're still in that first week of November, looking up at the night sky, same perspective, and at the same time, the hour of twilight, this time on November 3rd. We notice that the star constellations we've been tracking are continuing their travels just like we expect to see them, incrementally moving westward night over night. And the planets, although they also move throughout the night where they travel east to west, just like the fixed stars do, or the star constellations, when you track the moon and the planets and their travels night over night, you're going to find that they do not incrementally move westward when looking at them, comparing where they were the night before. But they do just the opposite. The moon and the planets will be found when you're tracking them night over night to move incrementally more eastward along the arc of the ecliptic. So they move night over night backwards in comparison to the star constellations or the fixed stars moving more westward. So let's move forward now in the sky story to 4 days later. Now we're looking at November 6th. And we see again just what we would expect, right? The fixed stars or the star constellations, they're moving little by little, night over night, more to the west. And the wandering stars or the planets are moving little by little, night over night, to the east. But we go forward to just the next day, November 7th. We're looking again from the same location at the same time, the hour of twilight, and we see why we call this the fall wink that the real all-seeing eye does in the night sky. This corresponds to the mark of daylight saving time in the fall, this year occurring on November 7th. This is a moving date on the calendar. The fall wink or daylight saving time mark in the fall occurs the first Sunday of November, where we turn our clocks back 1 hour, but we never see how that time-traveling trick appears in the sky, where we can see it makes everything that we've been tracking in the night sky take a big jump forward and causes what you can see is a fast and dramatic exit stage right or west below the horizon for the beautiful shining evening star of the show, Venus. So make sure you're out this first week of November during the twilight hour of the evening and feast your eyes on Venus. Because of her tricky travels, we won't see her back this time of the year as the evening star of the show again for 3 more years. So if you don't catch her, don't blink. The next time won't be again until we commonly call the year 2024, when we have time traveled to get there. Wink, wink. We'll certainly be looking more at the phenomenon of daylight saving time, what we call the fall and the spring wink, the real oracle, the real all-seeing eye does, and much more about the travels and adventures and tricks and treats the luminaries have to bring us. Some of the information that we looked at in this piece comes from our book series Constellations by Campfire, The Easy and Naked Eye Way. Both ebook and paperback versions are available. Links are down in the description or can be found by visiting our website, starsnearme.com, for our books and much more. Until next time, stay lit and be well.